Women's Sports Mix.
Cambridge Radio.
Welcome to the Women's Sports Mix. I'm Amy Gray.
And I'm Alex Elbro.
The A-Team. Oh, we did it.
At last.
Okay, that's us for the season.
Yeah, that's
done.
enough. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Mic drop and off.
Welcome to the show. If you are a first-time listener, we cover all women's and girls' sports and activities, health and well-being, a bit of everything. We also follow our local football and ice hockey teams,
including Histon Ladies. And today we're talking to Darren, Marjoram and Liz Pamplin, manager and assistant manager at Histon Ladies. We're going to be talking to them all about how they have found working at Histon after they'd moved from Cambridge United.
And they've had an incredible start to the season, so we will find out about that. I've also caught up with Cambridge Kodiaks head coach and captain George Alley and Christina Ashley, and we'll look at results for Cambridge United women, Cambridge City, Fulbourn Bluebirds, and get the latest on that serious leg injury. You might have seen this, Brooke Cheel-Ferris in the U's match against Chatham that resulted in the game being abandoned.
And if you're involved in sport in Cambridge or South Cambridgeshire, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at wsm@cambridge.radio, or you can DM us on Instagram, women's_sportsmix.
This is the Women's Sports Mix on Cambridge Radio with Amy and Alex. And on the last episode, we were about to head off to the Community Radio Awards because the Women's Sports Mix was a finalist for Sports Show of the Year. We did say, Alex, that we will update you come what may, whatever happens. What happened?
We won gold.
We, as us,
yes,
our listeners, all our contributors, we all did it together.
We did. We were very excited. We were very... well, kind of quite shocked, weren't we? You know, we can talk about it and laugh about it beforehand, but it became very real when we got to Bradford.
I felt nervous.
Yeah, and we were sitting there, weren't we? We were like, oh, what's happening? And I felt the most scary bit was that you are 5 finalists, which is brilliant. And we said this on the show before, and we did joke about it, we won't mention it again, but we did say we would mention it wherever we were, because to get into final is brilliant across the whole country of all the sports shows that are on around.
And there's hundreds of community radio stations. It's a national award, so we felt so pleased for
And then
everyone.
We heard the bronze, didn't we? Then we heard the silver, and we were like, oh, it's either this or nothing now. And then we heard our names. I think we both couldn't quite believe it, could we? They started reading out what the judges thought about our show, which was very much
before
reflective.
You know it's you.
Yeah.
So it's like, hang, is that my show?
And it sounds like, well, if not, someone's doing something very like what we do. And they like the originality of this. So we're very pleased. And we did, at the time, I mean, we went up there and made a little sort of speech. It was quite overwhelming. There was quite a lot of people in the room, and there's quite a lot of people watching online. Actually, it was on YouTube, wasn't it? But we did dedicate it to everyone out there who is working in grassroots women's sport, because without you and the contributors to the show, we wouldn't have had anything to talk about, would
it's
we?
us talking about Tunnock's tea cakes, if not, isn't it?
Well, there is that as well.
Hot chocolates.
Yeah, well, we could always take that as a sideshow.
Yeah, so we're just utterly thrilled
Yes.
for the award, what it represents.
So
for
we're
everyone.
Community Radio World Sports Show of the Year.
Go us.
Women's Sports Mix. So we've got to keep up that record now.
And we have a wee trophy.
We do. Yes, it's a little wooden. It's nice, actually. I think it's quite tactile.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll put it on Instagram.
Yeah, well, there are pictures.
Oh, of course there are.
On
there
Instagram.
Are. Yeah.
Women's_sports mix. Also, Amy Radio DJ, which is mine, has some pickies as well.
Because
they're slightly more behind the scenesy, those ones.
Well, yeah, we did have quite a lot of fun before it became very serious. We were having a good laugh and did some fun photos, and then we suddenly sort of thought, oh, we better stop messing about now. Anyway, I also want to say congratulations to Amy for Silver Presenter of the Year for Women.
Thank you very much.
And we also won a silver in the live event of the year for the Cambridge Folk Festival.
We did,
coverage,
which if you don't know, Alex knows her folk music, and she's always part of this. So well done to you, Alex.
Thank you. I was very pleased that I'd finally got something in, because I thought we should be go in for something. So I'm glad that we did for the live event, but that's quite a big one to compete against because look how many live events there are.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who works in radio loves doing what we call the outside broadcast.
Yes, and
so it's very competitive, and I think our folk festival coverage is great. Everyone, there's a lot of passion for folk music at Cambridge
exactly.
Radio,
and
so
we got a good community feel to that. All the people that were working within it, and also I'm going to say the bronze and the gold in that category went to 2 Welsh radio stations, one for Eisteddfod and one for a Welsh language festival, which on the night, I don't know about you, but I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up because it was all in Welsh, which is great. It's great to see the diversity. And there was people from Radio Sky who won Community Radio Station of the Year, didn't they? And then Isle of Wight.
Yeah,
so
really
it's all over the place.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone who's been part of the programme. Thank you so much to our listeners. We were overwhelmed by when we saw the listener numbers. So we're very thankful to you all and this awards for all of us. Okay, up next we are talking to the Cambridge Kodiaks following their Halloween game against Swindon Topcats.
This is Cambridge Radio Women's Sports Mix.
Cambridge Kodiaks always put on a good Halloween game at the Cambridge Ice Arena. They hosted Swindon Topcats at the weekend, Saturday, November 1st, coming off that great win against Streatham Storm. It was a loss this time. I spoke to head coach George Alley and captain Christina Ashley. It was a loss to Swindon, but not big margins, and you did lead in the first period, so a positive start against a very good team.
Yeah, they've been at the top of this league or in and around the league title picture for the last 2-3 years now, and they've got a lot of elite experience to couple with that. So it was promising. We saw some good signs when we played Firebees at the beginning of the season. We knew this was a potential scalp, so really we're disappointed we didn't get the win, and it feels more like 2 points lost then that we could have had for ourselves. But I'm really proud of the effort the team put through. We really took it to them in the first period, and the young players in particular, Cece Chandler and Miri Pomeranz, who made her debut, really stood out for us.
And Christina, what did you make of the game?
It's a disappointing loss. It's always disappointing to lose, but at the same time, it was really great to see that we absolutely can hold our own and we can step into a game and just sort of take over right from the off. I don't think anyone was expecting us to go up 1-0. Like George said, this is a team that's incredibly experienced and has been at the top of the league for quite some time. So for us to step in and immediately show that we're here and we're ready to go. But it's just like the last time we've lost. Nobody wants to lose, but it's what you do with the loss afterwards. And we bounced back quite well with our game after Firebees. So it's on to the next with Chelmsford and making sure that we do that as well and taking everything we've learned from this game and then implementing it so that we can just keep moving forward as a team.
And tell me about the penalties in the third period. How did that affect the game?
Anytime you go down, it's gonna bounce back on you, and you have to be careful about what happens. We could talk all day about reffing what's right and what's wrong, but at the end of the day, a penalty is a penalty, and you take it and you have to do what you can with it. What it showed us was areas that we can work on, but also areas that we really excelled at. There was some great play on the penalty kills that happened, and that really kind of gave us a boost, showing that we could kill off a lot of the penalties and not give up a goal. We did on one, but we still had a decent success rate with the other ones. So as long as we can keep that down to a minimum in the next games and just sort of build again on everything that we're doing, I think we'll be great.
It's all a learning curve at this stage, and I think it's reinforced the idea that we can compete, not just compete to stay in the league. I do think we can compete with the top teams. I think we can push for a playoff spot now. It's allowed me to reassess what I need to do, certainly in terms of prepping the team. Maybe we go more towards focusing on our own play rather than worrying about what everyone else is doing. But I do think we can compete with these top teams. I do think we can push to go to Sheffield again. And it's a streak I'd like to keep going since we've started, but I know it's going to be a lot more difficult. But certainly it's reinforced that we can do more than maybe other teams or other people thought that we could.
Well, that definitely sounds like the Kodiaks attitude that I know with going up into a league as a supporter. I perhaps don't quite know what to expect. And it's easy when you're watching to think, yeah, keep going. Okay, it's the league up, but go out there and do it and keep your chin up. But I imagine very different if you're actually a player. So it's very heartening to hear and see these results getting better and you're really settling into the league.
And I think George is being slightly humble there in saying that we can compete. because from a player's perspective, I think what it's shown us the last 3 games is that we can do more than compete. We can win, and we can absolutely get back to Sheffield. We just have to dig in. And like you said, as a player, you sometimes feel a little uncertain, like, oh, it's a league up. What are we doing? But everybody seems to have their footing now and know that they absolutely can be there and stand out.
And let's take a look at Kodiaks 2, a game against Coventry, and kind of similar in that it was a loss, 3-0. But are you seeing improvements with Kodiaks 2?
We've seen a massive improvement with Kodiaks 2. This is the closest game that we've had, but it wasn't just the scoreline that was close. Everybody played incredibly well, and they all stepped up to the plate. The play was back and forth. It wasn't sort of one-sided or heavy-handed on either side. And we had some really great plays being made across the board. We saw Scarlett Shelton, for example, who steps down from Kodiaks 1-2, was really leading. Sophie Heather was doing great this round. There was tons of really hard work, and we had an amazing goalie that stepped in to help us out as one of our goaltenders was injured, Helen Oates, and it just sort of all came together in the right way for everybody to work really well together and pull out a 3-0 loss, which is exceptional for them in the sense that they've really made a lot of progress and improvements.
And looking at the next Kodiaks game in League One, it's against Chelmsford, and it's a home game, so this will be at Cambridge Ice Arena on Saturday, November 22nd. What can you tell us about the Cobras?
It's an interesting one for me. They were the last women's team that I coached, so I left Chelmsford in 2019, so it would be nice to see a few old faces. I know a few of them are still playing from when I was coaching there. They've really grown as a club, but they've been a constant in WNIHL 1 since it was formed. They won the playoffs in 2019, but they've started a really good junior program there as well. We come up against a lot of those kids last season when we played the Pythons, who are their second team. But the Cobras are seasoned vets, is to be polite, about, they've been in WNIHL 1 since it was formed. They know the league. They're fairly consistent. They're not going to have much difference in their squad week to week, and it'd be good to see them again. But we're on a run of 5 straight home games, and we've got to try and take advantage of that. And it's every game's big for us. We have to treat every game like they're playoffs games now. We don't have any, not that any games were easy last season, but we don't have any games where the scores are going to be there. The teams are all very much at a similar level, and we have to find our way to assert ourselves on them rather than let any other teams come to us. And we now sell tickets online before a game. You don't just have to walk up on the door. We are now selling our usual tickets for concessions, children, adults, and family tickets as well. So you can find the link in our Instagram bio, and you can get a link straight to our next game. The Chelmsford tickets are online now, along with other store items, which you can pick up.
Thank you, George and Christina. And we'll be talking to Darren, Marjoram and Liz Pamplin of Histon Ladies next.
Women's Sports Mix, Cambridge Radio.
You're listening to the Women's Sports Mix with Amy and Alex, and we are very pleased to welcome Histon Ladies manager and assistant manager Darren, Marjoram and Liz Pamplin. Hello to you both.
Hey Amy, how you doing?
Good, thank you. And I think we'll start off with the headline number, which is 10 games, 10 wins, top of the league. Darren, is this how a plan comes together?
In an ideal world, it's how a plan comes together. I'm not sure if it was probably kind of what we expected. I mean, look, the reality is we thought we could come in and enhance what was already there. Got to say that the guys last year did a phenomenal job at the club, so it wasn't a case, and it's quite an unusual thing actually to be brought into a club that isn't probably in a place where it needs change, or where they're maybe struggling in a league, or those are the kind of ways normally that clubs make changes. But this was a little different. It was an opportunity to go to a club where there's lots of scope to go and improve things, but also where the club had done brilliantly well. They only lost 2 league games last season. So it was just a chance to kind of build on the successes of last year. And, as I say, I think none of us, we all hoped that this might be what it looked like, but it's probably beyond what we thought we might achieve when we first joined the club.
And you had said, when I spoke to you earlier in the year when the appointment was announced, that it was really more of an addition for you and Liz to go there, because so many of the original team, they were all saying Kevin, Matt and Tara were all going to be there. But nonetheless, to get those 10 wins, yes, you've both got the quality. Me and Alex had said they're going to go in and they're going to do well. But nothing's guaranteed in football. To have got 10 wins on the bounce, what's the feeling in the club at the moment?
Yeah, really positive, as you can imagine. And, the players, I think, you always, again, from a staff perspective, when you go to a club, you want to have an impact fairly quickly because you want the players to understand what you're trying to get across and that there is success to come from that. And if that doesn't happen fairly quickly, or if they don't like the way you want to play or the way you kind of set that culture, A, people don't necessarily believe in what you're doing, and B, you could lose players and you could lose staff. So it's really important that you just, even if it's not 10 wins out of 10, it's really important that you can early on get some successes, and whether that be in terms of the results, whether that be culturally around the club. But I'd like to think that we've impacted both on and off the pitch. And certainly, we've got supporters that have started to come and watch Histon that weren't watching before. They've kind of, that's grown that level of awareness of the team and the club. And yeah, the feeling's really positive, both from, the players, the staff, but also, I've got to say, we're very lucky that there's a brilliant set of people at the top end of the club, the board, very supportive, have been from the day we walked in. And as you can imagine, the feeling's pretty positive right now. We get lots of messages of well dones, and for us, it's just about continuing that feeling, because I feel like, of course, we want to be successful, we want to win games, we want to try and be successful at the end of the season, but ultimately I want people to enjoy their time, and I want them to look back on whenever they spent time at Histon, especially with me and Liz there, and I want them to say I really enjoyed that period of time that I was there. So that's an important feeling, I think.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before, that wins sort of breed wins as well, doesn't it? And as soon as you or you're down in a match and heads down, and you've got to sort of get that thing of no, the next one could be the one that's going to make it. And I'm guessing in some ways, when you've got all those wins, you've got to be careful that the team don't start getting a bit complacent and like, oh, we always win, so therefore we don't really need to do this, and maybe we don't need to try it as hard. But it sounds like they are. Yeah,
they are, aren't they? But I think we yesterday's game, my message to the players after the game was exactly that: stay humble. Don't ever think. I've been here too many times in football where you think you've cracked the code and you've got it won, and you haven't. It will always come back and bite. And we have had some tough games this year, so it's not been a given that we turn up and win games. I think that's helped a bit, that it's set their expectations if they still have to work hard, isn't it?
Yeah, we've also chatted with the girls about what psychology looks like when you're the team to be shot at. And everyone in the league will come to us and go, we're the team that are going to beat them. And so it's about the girls having enough kind of a sense of, no, we are the best team here, we're going to go out and win football matches. And I think the fact that particularly the two derby games against Cambridge City were so close and right to the wire has allowed the girls to go, we could lose a football match, we have to work really hard for 90 minutes to win any game in this league. And I think that's helped with the run, and I've certainly never been on quite a run like this in all the time I've played.
And how do you think, have you done anything with the training that's different to before, so you've had to talk to them and say, this is how we do it now, even though you were doing well before? Sometimes that might be hard to say, well, actually we're going to mix this up a bit, and this is how we work now, and you found it's all slotted in okay. Well, clearly it has, but
and one of the first things when we joined Histon, or before we joined, really, it was a conversation with the people at the top end of the club to understand what it looked like currently. And one of the things that struck me straight away is that they were training on a third of a pitch for 1 hour a week, and I just couldn't see it. They had done phenomenally well to work with that all last season, but if we wanted to take that next step and be that team at the top end, you've got to work in an area and a space that allows you physically to be ready to play in a game for 90 minutes. And I think Liz just touched on a moment ago with the 2 wins against Cambridge City, we've scored winners very, very late in the game. In the last game away from home, it was literally that, I think there was 8 seconds or something after the kickoff and the final whistle went. But that comes from us understanding early on that actually we needed the players to work physically to a level where they could keep pushing on. Other teams won't necessarily do that, but I've been very lucky in my time when I was at St Ives, for example, that we had another very good season in this actual division a few years back that we won. And it came from having a physical ability to win games late. We never ran out of steam. And I think that's been a feature of our season. And the players really are quite good, I think, now at adapting to with a squad. We're not necessarily an 11. And the players who don't start are maybe a bit upset with that. You can really see the togetherness of the unit and the group where they know they'll all get a chance. And I think the big thing for me as well, culturally, when I came in, one of the things that I wanted to do that I thought could impact it was just having clarity over decisions of why we're doing things. So, you know, I'm very keen on, for example, if people aren't able to train, and that sometimes happens, that's life, I'm fine with it. However, I will say, you know, if you can train, it gives you a better chance of starting, because I think that's just a fair way of selecting. So again, you know, we've come in and tried to be very clear about the expectations on the players, but also what they can expect from us as a group of staff. So yeah, I think we've impacted things a little bit differently from last year, and some of the things we noticed early on and some of the things we're learning as we go along, but hopefully we can continue to make it work like it is now.
And you had the two close results against Cambridge City. We all know Cambridge City, that they were always going to be tough games. Liz, we were talking about the Stevenage, it's the development team that they have in your league, and you knew those were going to be tough games because you were 1 and 2 in the league. So first game you managed to get the clean sheet, and second game they went ahead, didn't they, in the away game? So were you pleased to see the clean sheet and then coming back with Evie Nichols coming back with those 3 goals after you went behind Stevenage?
Yeah, again, we talked. I talked with Amy about the first game, the 2-0, and you said, oh, did Evie play? Because Evie hadn't scored that day.
Yeah, I think it was like one week she had scored.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, Evie's a quality footballer, a youngster who's really learning and developing her game, and she scores a lot of our goals. She's our main goal threat, and everybody knows that. But the rest of the players kind of beginning to chip in with goals is important. But we always know that we've got a goal threat. So going 1-0 down, again, the same thing we'd done against Cambridge City. So going 1-0 down against Stevenage early on, we didn't panic. We knew that if actually we hadn't started the game brilliantly well, we knew that if we raised our levels of effort, I think we started a bit slowly. We weren't as intense as they were in the first 10 minutes. We knew if we raised our levels of effort and tried to just tweak a couple of things, that we could get back in the game. Fortunately, we got back in quite quickly with a brilliant goal, and then the girls' confidence rose from there, that we've done this before, we can go and win this game even though we went behind early on.
And if you're getting into your local women's football, the socials for Histon Ladies is really good, because they also have moment of the match and things like that, so you can go back and see these goals if you're getting into it, and then, you know, come to a home game.
Yeah, absolutely. My I'm doing the socials at the moment. It's not something I've done before.
Doing a good job.
Well, I was going to say, whoever's doing them is doing a very good job.
Yeah. I've actually quite enjoyed it, and it's good to highlight the girls, and it's really nice for them as well to actually have their, you know, the product. Essentially, you know, it's football, but it's product, isn't it? And it's getting our girls known amongst the local football, because they're really good bunch of girls that work really hard, and it's really nice to be able to highlight them. The moment of the match and the woman of the week, and it's just
I think
good.
that's really important, because as we know, we're always trying to encourage people to support and take part in grassroots stuff. If you don't know about it, it's very hard to sort of come across it by chance.
This was another one of the things that as we came into the club, we identified that we needed to. It was done a bit last year, and then the person who was doing social media then went away, and we talked about, again, increasing levels of certain things, and we were looking everywhere for somebody who could do the social media, and I'm a bit old now, it's not really my thing, I know how to use it, but we didn't have anyone, and I said, you know what, I'll have a look at this, I'll learn how to do this, I'll get these things out there, because it's really, really important for us and the girls to have visibility. It helps when you're on a good run, because people want to look again and again, but the visibility, especially lower down the women's pyramid, is really, really important.
You know, for us, as Liz said, it was important when we came to the club that we looked off the pitch as well as on the pitch. You know, much as both of you do, we want to promote local sport, And we feel like, not being biased because this is the club we're at, even from watching Histon a few times last year, they're a really good club and a good place to be. And we found that with people that have kind of followed along and followed us over to Histon in terms of support, they've been pleasantly surprised with the product and what they've seen. So, and as we all know, grassroots sport is a fantastic place to be in terms of being able to engage with the players. It's not we're the players and we stay away from people. As soon as they come off the pitch, they want to go and speak to people, and they're very appreciative of that level of support. And again, one of the things we've done well, and we've got again this weekend for our game, is that we've started to try and get as many mascots in from local teams as we can. So we've got an under-9 girls team coming in this Sunday. So again, it's about how do we engage with people, and ultimately, as I said at the beginning, it's not just about the football, it's about can we create some memories, and that will be for other people as well as for ourselves. So engaging with local grassroots girls teams is important for us.
Evie Nichols, I've got his 17 goals across 13 games in all competitions. That sound about right?
That's right, and so literally the first time I met the players with Liz and with Kev and with Matt before we'd even started pre-season, just to kind of introduce the changes. And Evie had actually trained a little bit at Cambridge United with us when I was there, so I already knew her. And so I set Evie a target right at the beginning of the season. I said, you need to beat last year's top goal scorer in the league. You must win the Golden Boot this year. So she just responded brilliantly, and that's a credit to her and the hard work that she's put in, because she's been keen to do more than just the bare minimum to get that success.
Well, if you've got a girl that's maybe thinking about playing up front, maybe get down and have a look at what Evie Nichols is doing at Histon Ladies.
And also, will you have other members of the lower teams then looking to move into? So you'll have other people moving up as they get older. So is that how it works?
So this is again one of the things, kind of next steps for us really, is that we want to engage more and more with local grassroots girls teams to give them the opportunity, as Amy said a moment ago, come along and have a watch to see what that looks like from a player who's doing well at this level, and hopefully engage with them so that we can start to get some local teams feeding into Histon.
Yeah.
Histon, as we stand, Histon Ladies, there isn't any youth teams below us. So there's Histon Hornets, which is another club, and we want to engage with them. We want to now get them drawn into us. But also locally, as I say, we've got Bottisham under-9 girls coming in on Sunday. And, the more we can engage now, it may be beyond my time at the club, but ultimately, if the legacy that I can leave behind and Liz can leave behind, what I'd really like it to be is, there's some girls that came along at 9-10 years old, watched the team, really enjoyed the atmosphere, really enjoyed, and end up playing for Histon. That would be the dream. So anybody that hears this, if they want to get in touch, you can get in contact through social media. Just drop us a message and say that you're keen to come in and be mascots, and we'd be absolutely delighted to host. We offer that as something free, not just for the players, but for parents, for whoever wants to come along with them. So it's just an opportunity, effectively, to have a Sunday out. The players from the youth teams can come and enjoy themselves for the day, come and engage with the players, maybe speak to a player who plays in their position, that kind of thing.
They get to choose the player of the match as well, which is always fun.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
Just good fun, isn't it?
I was going to ask you, how has it been to move from a higher level club like Cambridge United, where you both were before, to move to Histon? Did you have to change mindset, or you just kind of keep the same and just work at the same level, but just with different people to work with?
It might be nice to answer this, both of us, because it'd be very separate and very different from a different perspective, because I was at the club for 4 years, but Liz was involved with the club for an awful long time, and in so many different roles. So from my perspective, it is different. Even sort of things that are quite obvious, like training is once a week rather than twice a week. So it's less in terms of the contact time that we get with the players. So you're trying to get success with less contact time. The travel is closer generally, but of course the standard of the teams and the staff that you're up against in Tier 4 can be phenomenal. So it is very different, but ultimately success at any club is success at any level, and it doesn't really matter. It's what you want to do is create something that's going to go beyond just a short-term effect. So for me, my time at Cambridge United, we got to a National League final, we won 3 county cups. We had some really good moments in there, and I want to recreate that with Histon. So it is different. Certainly from a coaching perspective, it's very different. You can be working with, at Cambridge, I had a section of players right from Sarah Wiltshire, who played WSL and played internationally for Wales, through to young players. At Histon, we've got a really good core of young players, so probably about half of our team at the moment is under 18s. So there's a lot more emphasis on bringing young players through. So there's a lot of similarities. For me, I just love getting involved and getting in there, and for me it doesn't feel hugely different, but the reason I said we'll let Liz answer separately is because for Liz, there's a lot of changes, I suspect.
Yeah, and for me, I'd been working kind of on the ground player through everything else for the better part of 25 years at Cambridge United, and women's football has changed so much in that time, and I sit on the Women's National League board, so looking at the very highest levels of kind of the National League game for the women, and then coming now to Histon is very much like when I was a player back in the day. It's back in the nuts and bolts. It's in those pitches where the changing rooms are a bit odd, or the pitches aren't what they, they're not a Carrow Road or whatever that might be, but actually that's where my heart in football is, on the ground, on the grass, with teaching young players that now you can have this. What when I was that age, it just wasn't there, and I love being able to just sit alongside. I had a game where one of the players was injured. I'm act as physio as well, so it was lovely to just sit alongside one of the younger players who was injured on the day and just talk about what life looks like, what school looks like, and what football looks like, and just give her a little bit of, she's sad she wasn't playing that particular day, and just give her a little bit of advice on what to do next and where to go. And for me, having kind of done so many different jobs and been very, very busy around Cambridge United on match day and all those other things, it's nice to have less jobs and to be able to be in with the players and really influence them. And I've loved being back on the grass in a much more simple level, but also allow one of my big things is player care, and it's raising the professionalism. So it's little things like we've got gels and proteins in the dressing room that we didn't have before, and it's looking like a tier 6 football side looks like what we used to give our tier 4 football side. They're no different. They're making their way up to be better players, so allowing them to be special because we treat them the same way we did the footballers at Cambridge United.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've noticed is that there's all the hype over the, Lioness is fantastic over the summer, and when we've spoken to people and said, and how does that trickle down? Is that giving you a big impact? The answer is maybe sometimes, they might have seen it on TV, but if they haven't got the facilities or the like you say, the changing rooms are a bit yucky and you don't really want to go in the showers there because doesn't mean that you're going to become a lioness at any time soon. Or like you say, play for fun with your friends, because as soon as there's anything else option, you'll be out because you're like, well, it's not so nice there, or it hasn't got such a good atmosphere. But I feel that's really important, that some of that great feeling we've had over the summer, or stress, whichever way you like to look at it, comes down. And even the WSL, and going down into, that's all very well, and it's great that we can still see, we were laughing the other week saying, we can still see women's games at a reasonable price, and said we're going to careful what you wish for, we're going to be able to afford to do them when it all suddenly becomes good, and we'll be like, oh, we were fighting for equality, we weren't necessarily fighting for it all to be pushed up in price. But you get such good value at grassroots. But another thing we've been saying is that we wouldn't mind paying more if it means it's going to go to the players and the pitches and the things. Some of the other sports we've seen, Kodiaks ice hockey, there's a whole controversy at the moment whether people should pay or whether it should just be completely free. Because they're like, oh, why do we have to come and pay to see it? But they have to pay for the pitches, they have to pay for the...
And gradually they are now all charging. So people that were saying, what are you doing that? Now realising, actually, we're providing entertainment and the club can grow. Where do you get the kit from otherwise?
Where's it? Everyone's own pocket. So I'm very much for... I'd like to see some of that trickle down, like in any other thing, that somehow that's given more priority, is that we want to get kids in schools and in grassroots, all with the facilities that they want to be doing it.
Agree.
We've started, for the first season, we've started to charge people a minimal amount to come in through the gate, but it just pays for the referee.
Absolutely.
And then we don't charge everyone. Kids get in free, and season ticket holders at Histon and all that kind of stuff, but just the people who, just that small amount allows the players to have more, and allows them to feel like, it buys them a warm-up shirt when before they used to bring their own kit or whatever. So that's really, really important, to allow the girls to feel like they're special, and they can kind of, if they want to, eventually make a career in the game.
And that will be a barrier to some people, because their families and their circumstances may not allow that. And people say, oh, no, it won't. But it definitely will, because that... it's not always their choice, it's the parents' family choice, isn't it? So right. Especially at a younger age, it's not going to be like they've said, oh well, I'd rather not do this and I'll buy some kits. They're going to say, well, we can't afford that, you can't go to that.
We've been very lucky as well, sponsorship wise. So we've been probably spoilt in some ways. You know, some of the sponsors that we've had previously at Cambridge and people that have maybe come and sponsored at Histon, but you know, in a minimal level, have really kind of helped us this year, and that supported a lot of, you know, what, again, an aim from our perspective when we came to the club was to make sure that all of the players can play for free. So we, you know, by charging a small amount on the gate, by trying to bring in more and more sponsorship, and of course being successful on the pitch, that's our responsibility, mine and Liz and Kev and Matt and Tara, because if we can get success on the pitch, we can help to bring more sponsorship in, which means that we can support the players. So, you know, we for example have had a couple of sponsors that have been brilliant, where they've come to us and said, you choose who you think needs this support. So we've been able to kind of point that in the right directions.
And this is what you need if people are interested in women's sports. You put the money down, you know, sponsor people. It's really crucial.
And do you know what? It's not a lot either. I mean, to sponsor a player for the whole season, to have everything covered for the player, all their kit, all of their fees, everything for the whole year is £75, and for that you get the publicity for your company because it gets promoted through social media, on Histon's website. It's a really cost-effective way to support local people, to do something good within the community, but it supports them in a really positive way. If we can allow them to play for free, for some of them that's such a huge step.
And one of my favourite bits of the sponsorship this year is one of our sponsors put down money for us to buy women's fit shorts. Nice. And we've not had that at the club. We didn't even actually have that at Cambridge United. And the girls were like, I was saying, what would make you feel more comfortable playing this year? And the girls said, you know, we'd love women's fit shorts. And one of the sponsors, not really wanting even to be named, put down the money and we bought women's fit shorts. And the first game the girls went out and they went, you know what? They're almost like their chests were out. They were like, I feel comfortable. I look good. I really like the kit. And they just, you know, they lit up. They went, this is great. We're being looked after.
I've noticed, I mean, something I'm definitely want to spend more time on in other programmes is that there's more and more research coming into women's sport and women's kits and, you know, trainers and training and everything. Yes. And I think in time, you know, in say 5-10 years time, there'll be a lot of things that will have changed because they've realised that women's bodies are different and they respond differently and they feel different if they're in different things as well.
I had a really good chat with a lady at Swindon Town. They're in the Women's National League, and she was one of their marketing managers, and she was saying that they'd approached Wooker, who is a period underwear company, because it was a women's, very specifically women's. She'd approached them, they've sponsored them, gone in all in, and they've got all of the girls the underwear that works for them for free because it's promoting their brand. And they did, and the girl, it's absolutely brilliant for the girls. And so that's that kind of, you know, very specific targeted for something that is women's health and so important that we haven't really looked at before. I remember I used to, when I was playing county for the first time, we played every year. We played in the kit that was the men's kit the previous year for Cambridgeshire County, and I played in stuff that almost looked like my pyjamas. It was huge.
I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing. You know, and no one at the time thought that was anything wrong with that.
No,
they think we'll be grateful. Yeah, exactly.
And those
grateful.
kits were already baggy then.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. That's true.
Yeah, genuinely, the men's kit. The girls would go out. You'd be like, have your shirts around your knees. You'd be like, I can't run.
But that, again, if you feel really comfortable with what you're wearing, it just allows you to focus so much on your performance. I mean,
you're not thinking about it, are you? You're just wearing it. You're not like thinking, this is like you say, I'm going to trip over my bottom of my shorts if I'm not careful. Yeah. Exactly. But also, another thing that I think we spoke about before is to do with research now, which is being done, but into like football boots and things for women, and probably shin pads eventually or whatever, that need to be designed in a different way, because this season already there's been so many ACLs, isn't it? And I mean, I'll pick up on this a bit later nationally, and they were saying that there's so many that women get this injury so much more now. What's going on, you know, and they still nobody's quite sure.
There's a lot of research around. It's like hip width obviously is very different in female athletes. Years ago, a guy that I did some mentoring with who had some focus on the women's and girls game as well. He shared with me some research. I think it was done by Southampton Uni, and it led to some exercises that you can look up. Are called FIFA 11 Plus, and it's a set of exercises that are designed to help female athletes kind of strengthen knees and those areas which have a particular weakness. So around like ACL, for example, just to kind of prepare bodies better for the challenges that they might meet. And as I say, you know, for example, women's bodies have a wider hip width. So straight away, you know, there's very distinct differences between male and female athletes. So I've incorporated both at Cambridge United and now at Histon, and I did it when I was at St Ives as well. Some of the exercises from that programme have been built into our warm-up. And I'm just thinking back to our time at Cambridge. We had Tash hurt her knee in training in a bit of a freak one where she just went to change direction. But I think in the 4 years that I spent at Cambridge, I don't think we had another knee problem.
We were really fortunate with the injuries, and I think it's because also we had near the start of the middle of our time at Darren's time at Cambridge United, we had a very good physio who looked a lot at menstrual cycle tracking, which helps because there's some of that where they reckon the ligaments become more lax, so it becomes an injury risk. Also, the Q angle from the hips. I did my physiotherapy degree, and we were talking about that then, on the pressure on ACL on women athletes due to the angle of the hips, and then the footwear as well, because flat feet and lots of different things. Also, the turfs. Playing on a lot of AstroTurf, of course,
and going between both if you're you know, playing in different places. Like,
well, we train on 3G and then play on grass at home.
And then we play on a different 3G on Sunday, so it's just it
can be quite intense. But and funny enough, I did. Someone was doing their research for their degree and asked to interview me in the summer. A girl who used to be at Cambridge United many years ago as a young player, and she's doing some research into, you know, the prevalence of ACL injuries in particular amongst female athletes. You know, one of the questions she posed was just, is there any information out there? And the answer is there is some, but the problem is it's just not very widely known. And I think if there was a way of people being able to go, do you know what, whether it be through like FA website or something, if there was a way of people being able to access, for example, this FIFA 11 Plus set of exercises, you know, I implemented them with youth teams that I worked with, not because they necessarily needed that particular level of warm-up, but if you could just educate and that becomes a normal set of exercises that you do. So there's some specific ones like, you know, sidestepping inwards and then changing direction sharply and going back out, so you get your knees used to those changes of direction. There's one that the girls always enjoy, which they sidestep in, they jog forwards to a set of cones, sidestep in, and they jump up in the air, shoulder barge, and then you focus on the landing being feet hip width apart, bending the knees, feet pointing the same way as the knees are, so you track properly, and it becomes muscle memory. It becomes a way of them just, without having to think about it, they're landing from going up for a header or going up for a challenge, they'll land in a way that's a bit kinder on their knees. So you can kind of implement some of this stuff in your warm-ups, and it just becomes normal. I mean, now in the warm-up, both for training nights and for games, the girls do all that themselves. I don't have to stand there and watch them, they just do it. So there's stuff like that can help.
Again, it's women's sport and women's football just taking its time to catch up. After, you know, we all know the long ban and all of the reasons and everything that went alongside that. It's catching itself up and being a more joined up approach, and we have come so far. But there's so much more that we can do.
Brilliant.
And let's take a look at your next game. So a familiar sounding team, Real Bedford. This is the reserves team. I mean, you know the team from being at the U's, Real Bedford. We know that they as a club, they've got backing. They're the crypto club, Alex. You know, we like to talk about them. And, you know, they're in with a shout for the league as well, aren't they? They're a good team. You play them next. What do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, when we, again, you know, from the beginning of the season, we kind of looked at the league and identified the sides that we thought we'd be competing with if we wanted to be at the top end, and they were definitely one of them. They're a very competitive side. You know, they've got some experienced players in there as well. So we know that it'll be tough again this week. And as Liz said earlier, we know that everybody now is coming to us and we've got the target on our back. We're the team that everybody wants to beat. And, you know, the longer that record continues, the more determined teams become to be the team that topples you off of that record. So, you know, you've got that to contend with. But I think we've spoken to the players about being humble, but also having that ability to feel confident about where we're at. And as I said to them a couple of weeks ago, after we'd narrowly beaten Cambridge City before the first Stevenage game, I said, look, if you was any other team in the league, who would you want to swap places with? And the answer is us. So why be afraid of losing a game? Instead, embrace it and just be really excited about the fact that we're that team that everybody wants to come and beat. And every time you win, you can go and be really excited about, proving to people again that you're the best side. So I think they've adopted a bit of that over the last couple of weeks. It's just important that we just continue to work really hard, because it is hard work ultimately. If you work hard on the other team, you probably stand a great chance of winning the game.
And I loved watching the girls play yesterday, because they did, and you could see they all wanted it. The ones who came off the bench were working so hard for 90 minutes. And we've got such a good, strong squad that the players know they have to work hard, because if they don't, somebody else will come in and start, and they all want to start. And that's what allows us to keep the levels up, because they're competing against each other, not more against each other than against the opposition in a way. So, yeah.
It's very true.
It's a nice position to be in, isn't it? That you've got such a strong squad. Fingers crossed. It's like I don't want to jinx anything.
No, I mean, it's
the headaches, injuries.
Headaches that come with it is balancing it, because you've got a large enough group of people, and not everybody necessarily is going to play every week. But the way it's panned out so far, this week might be a little different. We've got a lot of people available this week, but there's always somebody's got a little bit of a niggle, or a couple of weeks ago we had somebody who kind of had a bit of a chest infection or something, and it was affecting their breathing. So you can say, look, just rest this week. So you can look after people like that as well. So look, an expanded squad has its headaches, but definitely helps to keep that competitive edge.
Well, we're looking forward to following you for the rest of the season. Thank you, Darren and Liz.
Thanks very much, Amy. Thanks,
Good
Alex.
Cambridge Radio Women's Sports Mix.
Thank you very much to Liz and Darren. Let's take a look at the rest of the football. We'll go to the U's. So they had that game against MK Dons, which was 2-2. And then this abandoned game, Alex, against Chatham Town. U's had actually gone 2-0 up. They'd had 2 goals in 2 minutes. But then about sort of 4 or 5 minutes after that, this injury to Brooke Cheel-Ferris, and they have done an update on their website to say that following further medical assessment at a nearby hospital, because there was an air ambulance there, it's been confirmed that Brooke has suffered a triple leg break and dislocation. She is scheduled to undergo surgery this week before her recovery journey, and Brooke has been on X saying thank you to everyone for their well wishes.
I mean, it sounds absolutely horrific. I don't know how you break a leg in 3 different places in just one move, and playing football, not like falling down some stairs or something, being thrown across whatever, and dislocation as well. I mean, poor girl.
I don't understand how that works, other than obviously it's a very, very serious injury. Brooke says the comeback is on post-surgery, that is, so looks like she's got the fighting spirit, which
definitely
is good.
But October, I know we're in November now, but October they were saying was a brutal injury month especially for knee injuries in women's football, and they think there is a crisis. And we spoke to Darren and Liz about it briefly there. Obviously, Michelle Adjaman has done her ACL.
Yeah.
This is quite a massive thing, because it means a big operation, and it's ligaments.
Is Michelle Adjaman out for the season?
I think so. Yeah. They said, they haven't, basically they've not said not, but I think they said it's probably going to be at least 6 months recovery on that. And then there's a whole list. I've counted here. There's people with a PCL. I don't know what a PCL is, but that must be some other injury. I only ever hear of ACL. It must be a different one of the ligaments in your leg. There's something like 1, 2, 3. It's about 20 women's footballers that within the same month have had knee injuries, and I feel like it's about time they really need to get on this. I can't believe that, especially at national, international level, with all the physios and psychologists and training and sports science that they do, that they still can't work out why women are getting these injuries. And I'm sure it's not down to them doing something wrong, like they're not doing their training properly or whatever.
Yeah, there's various sort of theories to why this is. And I did find this article, the BBC said that FIFA was funding research into, this is the angle, this is one of the things that comes up, is hormone fluctuations during menstrual cycles. So they are doing research on this. This was back in April, and it says it's starting next month and will be a year-long study. So presumably that's going on at the moment.
Because Liz mentioned that as well, didn't she, that your ligaments get looser at different parts of your cycle.
It's something that's always been mentioned, so whether this study will shed any light on that.
I mean, that could explain why your ligaments aren't working as they should be at certain times. I wish all these people with injuries a good recovery and rehab, because you must do the rehab.
Our best wishes to Brooke following that injury. So let's have a look at Cambridge City women. Their game on the 26th of October against Thetford, that was a loss 5-2, but they have a point. The return fixture, which was at the weekend, 2nd of November, that was 0-0 for them. And Fulbourn Bluebirds, they're both in the same league with Histon Ladies. Fulbourn Bluebirds, their October 26th game was a 3-2 win against Mulbarton. Well done. And then as it turns out, that was the return fixture as well for that on November the 2nd, but that went 4-1 to Mulbarton, which was played in Mulbarton. So having a look at the table, as we mentioned when Liz and Darren were in earlier, Histon Ladies at the top of that, 30 points. Their goal difference is the best in the league as well. That's 18. Cambridge City and Fulbourn are still both in the relegation spots. They've both got 5 points actually, but they're not adrift or anything like that. But the goal difference, as I mentioned before, -6 for Cambridge City, -20 for Fulbourn. So there's the difference with the results that they're getting.
As it gets later in the league, that's going to really count, isn't it, as well?
And how about rugby, Alex?
Well, we were due to speak to Fabs Howell from Shelford Women's Rugby today about the cup game that they had on the 26th of October. And this was the Women's Intermediate Cup, and the final, when they get to it, will be played at Twickenham, which would be very exciting. It was against Wyndham Wasps, and unfortunately it was abandoned, it was cancelled, but that's because the other team couldn't get a team together or whatever reason, so they actually get a bye into the next round for that one, which is disappointing for them because they don't get a game, but they'll go on to do the next. They're not knocked out, if you see what I mean. So they have a game on Sunday the 9th of November at home, Shelford Ladies against Sudbury Ladies, and that'll be in the afternoon at the Davyfield down in Shelford. That's opposite Scottsdale's if you've never been. A great place to go for an afternoon. And then the next game they have after that will be after our next show, so we'll be talking to Fabs about that then.
Women's Sports Mix, Cambridge Radio.
You're listening to the Women's Sports Mix with Alex and Amy on Cambridge Radio. Now, we've been following the Women's Cricket World Cup as well. England were doing quite well, but unfortunately they had a bad loss in the semi-final to South Africa, and the final was on the 2nd of November, and it's the first time the final without England and Australia in it, which I'm sure both of those teams are very annoyed about, in Mumbai, and India versus South Africa. Now, India won that one, and they said it's going to be a big boost again to the women's game in cricket because so many people are seeing in India have seen how all these players, and they said that they're all role models, everyone wants to be those cricketers now in the women's team like they did for the men. So that's another really exciting growth in another women's game, which is absolutely brilliant.
I think good to have, you want all the teams competing, don't you?
Yeah.
Shame for England, some early wickets there in our semi-final against South Africa, but well done to India.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. You can get in touch if you are involved in sports in the area, WSM at cambridge.radio. Follow us on Instagram, women's_sports mix, and you can listen back to all of our shows on demand at cambridge.radio. We're also on the podcasting platforms as well, and our next show is in 2 weeks, November the 20th. Bye from us.
Bye.